Hello, it's Laura Victoria Ward here with Lord Gaylord, my assistant and sometimes cameraman. So I am going to do a small micro movement session of how to connect your head-tail connection, or how to bring it online, how to sense it more. So there's an exercise in Bartenia Fundamentals called the heel rock, which if I just do the heel rock, this is what's going to go on with my feet. It's not super flexing and pointing, it's just sort of a relaxed movement. As you can see, that's coming up into my body. If I was doing this laying down, I'd do it, and what I would want to have happen is that my pelvis starts to release, my rib cage, lungs, head, and neck start to bobble up and down. So it's like I'm sending a little ripple and wave of movement up and down through my body. If I don't think about it at all, I might not move that much in my body. If I start to sort of exaggerate it, I can get a bit more of a wave going through. And for me, the place that I tend to get most stuck is here in this part of my sternum and the front of my ribcage and lungs. So that's one way to get going with that, but I think that might be a little bit more advanced. If you have somebody shaking your heels or shaking your feet for you and pushing you and pulling you, it's easy to find that connection from upper to lower. So what I've heard from some people is that they can feel all the micro movement in the top half or all the micro movement in the bottom half, but they feel like there's sort of a disconnection in the middle. And I think I've felt that in my life too, like this split between the upper and lower body. So finding our head-tail connection is a great way to help access the connectedness of our whole body. It is connected, so why not feel into it with some movement? So here's a slightly easier version. What I'm gonna do is just use my feet on the floor to have a little bit of a push and a pull. So I'm pushing and pulling, and I'm imagining that the water in my body is just sloshing up and sloshing down, and offering my neck, jaw to bobble, rib cage, lungs to bobble, and stomach to soften. So it's gonna stick out some of the time. We're not trying to suck it in. If I engage my core and draw in, nothing's gonna move. What I'm trying to do is release all of that. So all of the sort of holding patterns of what we think it is to have a strong core, let that go. Let that just ripple move through your body. So if you've done a lot of things like Pilates, ballet, even yoga sometimes, like there can be a lot of bundaing, too much pulling in. We want to sort of let that all breathe and open out again. So this is the on your back version. Just stop pushing and pulling with your feet. It's not a whole lot of push and pull, but a little bit, so that you can start to feel the relationship of your head to your tail. I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit, so now I'm really sending a wave through it, that's more exaggerated than it needs to be. You could just start with just a little gentle push and pull, and it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of movement. Just feeling as you push with your feet, your head goes up, a little pull, not a ton of muscle engagement in the legs, but just a little bit. So that's one way. The next way is going to be from your quadruped position, so hands and knees, if this feels okay. And the first thing that I would suggest to do is just think of pulling your head forward and lengthening forward, and then pulling your tail back and reaching back with your tail. So head is going to lengthen forward. We're not worried about the movement through the body. We're just pulling in one direction, and then tail is going to initiate to pull back. Head initiates the movement, lengthening forward, and then tail initiates the movement, pulling back. Now I'm going to change it slightly, and you may not be able to see this. It might just be an idea to work with, but thinking of from my tail, pushing through to my head and reaching it forward, and then thinking of my head pushing down to my tail and reaching it back. So it's the opposite pattern. Tail is pushing and lengthening my head forward, and then head is pushing down towards my tail and lengthening my tail back. So let's go back. That's the sort of weirder pattern. The easier pattern is lengthening your head forward and pulling, and then lengthening your tail back and pulling back. So to feel this connection from upper to lower. Once we've got that connection going, start by starting you can use a CatCow that initiates, like, let's say I just initiated with my tail, and then I'm going to initiate with my tail to change the direction again. Oh, and look at this. My assistant is back. Couldn't have planned that better. So tail initiates, rounding my spine, coming all the way up, taking my weight forward, and then tail initiates, drawing back, pulling back,
and opening. I could also do this with my head. So my head initiates, it moves through my shoulders, through my chest, through my waist, and then down to my tail. And head is going to initiate again. Chest starts to open, it ripples through and comes down. So I'm very consciously, actively making this pattern happen. Now I'm going to free it up and just let any kind of movement happen. So it can be ripples and waves, moving in any way that feels good. Just to give myself a little more freedom so I'm not getting into this locked patterning. My cat has got his little feet right here on my hand, so we're all connected. He loves it. So starting with my tail, I'm going to initiate with my tail up to my head, and this I'm going to initiate with my head down to my tail. I'll initiate with my head down to my tail, and then my tail up to my head. So we can initiate either way. One more way of thinking about it, we could come into a neutral spine, head right in line, and then think of lifting your eyes. Looking with your eyes, and as your eyes are reaching forward and looking out, see if you can also find some energy reaching out through your tail. So the energy of our back could be going like this, both directions radiating out, both directions coming in. It could be rippling from the bottom to the top, it could be rippling from the top to the bottom, and then it could do any kind of other weird movement in the middle. And the more we sort of play with freedom and patterning, the more it's going to free up. So it's the first time I saw people start to really have that freedom of just letting their bodies move without consciously directing it so much. As one of my friends puts it, movement without ego. So it's not like, oh, I'm trying to impress you by my cool dancing. I'm more trying to get into my tissue and free up some of the stuff that might be locked in there in my fascia, in my nervous system, from just existing in my life. So that's part of what this is all for. But trying to just connect that head to tail. We can take it down to baby moves, right? Just head reaching forward, tail reaching back. And this head-tail connection is a part of the developmental patterning that babies go through. So baby is born, first breath of air, we develop a sense of breath support. And then from there, we start to go into this core distal pattern, center to the periphery and back. And then from there, we start to develop a head-tail connection. And a lot of times you can see babies doing that weird, like they're just doing this weird gut-body movement, which may precipitate going to the bathroom or gas or anything else like that. But that's like being alive. Yes, I have a cat very involved in my day here, cat-tail. Anyway, that is a little beginning of playing with your head-tail connection and connecting the upper to the lower. This guy is connected. Tail to head. Yeah, he doesn't have to do anything. It's natural for him. Look at that. So I hope you enjoy your day. Please like and subscribe. More micro movement makes you feel better. Mindfulness, fun, easiness in your body. And it's great for the long term, for longevity of your tissue, longevity and health of your tissue and the systems in your body.